Watching the dog montage.
That he's probably going to send to me.
It's really cute. I'm gonna send it to my sister-in-law. That's what I'm gonna send it to. I'm gonna be so mad if it doesn't work.
We're frozen on mine. Oh, we're back. Oh, we're not. Okay, we're back. Hello.
Now, if the stream goes down, we can't stop once we've started recording.
I mean, we can pause the recording. We've done that a few times.
Yeah, I guess we can.
Just makes an editing job for James later.
It's not an edit that I can do for it, really.
Don't you just cut out the dead space?
A little, yeah.
There's one on 50 Shades of Grey. I think
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, great. I better look at that.
There might have been one for 2.
That's already live. My hands smell like mayonnaise.
That's an odd thing for your hands. I don't want to smell your
Smell
mayonnaise.
them!
I don't want
They're mayonnaise flavored.
That's the most white-ass person thing that you could possibly say.
Is it?
Yes.
I don't know. I think a racial slur might be more in order.
That's just a racist thing.
Well, that would be the most white-ass thing.
No. A white person smelling a mayonnaise is pretty much the whitest of white things.
Is it? Okay.
You ready?
Whenever you are.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to CityWavesCinema. I'm James. That's America.
Holy shit, we did an intro with no fucking...
Damn near sent the water all over the studio floor.
We were almost so
You menace.
clean.
You
We
menace
were almost
society.
so clean.
And you went and yeagled it. You yeagled it. Why'd you yeagle it? We watched a German movie. A German movie.
I didn't know it was German.
That you might be intimately familiar with if you were born in the last 30, 40 years. And that movie is... Shh, we're gonna get copyright infringement. That movie is... Stop it! The never-ending story. I'm gonna end you, dude. You gotta stop. We're gonna get copyright striked. You wanna get striked? We're gonna get striked. Cease. Cease. Cease.
Never-ending story.
Oh my god, it's so much noise. God. Why do you want to get striked?
We won't get striked for anything that just happened because it was not cohesively put together.
Well, you know what? Funny you mention that. That's kind of like the movie.
Awesome segue. High
Yeah,
five.
I'm so good at this job. Now, listen. I never saw the movie as a child. So, my opinions are that of a fucking...
Almost 30.
Almost 30-year-old film major. And not even really a film major, because they're all philosophical and shit. I just learned how to make movies. So I don't have this overreaching sense of nostalgia about the movie. Because I don't have any deep-seated memories to tie me to it. So upon watching it, I spent the runtime is an hour and a half, and I think I spent all of that confused.
I will say, looking over at James's face throughout the movie was more entertaining than watching the movie for another time. Because most of the time it was just expressions of what the fuck.
As per usual with movies that Jim Henson's puppeteers operate in, all the puppeting and the puppets themselves look phenomenal. Especially for, I think, what was it, 1984?
Mm-hmm.
Tremendous.
It's almost 40 years old, everybody.
the puppets look great for the time of the movie. That being said, we also just watched another movie with Jim Henson puppets in it, and they were that much better considering they made it in the last year. So, all that to be said, we start the movie on a generic child with a bowl cut, as per usual for movies made between 1980 and 1999.
He's got that Will Byers look, guys.
No, Will Byers has his look. And this child is sort of a daydreamer type, I guess you could say. His name is Bastian because his parents hate him.
Yeah, it's not even Sebastian, it's literally just Bastian.
Well, let's not forget his mom doesn't have a real name and she's dead. So, the fact is that his dad is the only stable human being in his life, and his dad's an asshole.
What is it up with, like, 80s parents? So I guess I'm looking at Gen X and Boomers.
Mm-hmm.
What's up with them just being, like, god-tier awful parents? Like, that's where we get, like, the latchkey kid generation. And it's based on somewhat a fact, like, it has to be. I mean, they did have that ad that went around on, like, local access television that was like, don't forget to hug your children. So, like, I just have a question of, like, why were you guys so bad? Why
Jesus, I thought I was gonna have antagonistic opinions about this thing, and America's out here like, hey guys, why are you fucking ass at raising children?
Well,
That's your opinion.
They want to sit here and blame millennials and Gen Z for all this nonsense, but guess how we became the way we were?
Anyways, Bastian is apparently daydreaming so hard that he forgets to do his math homework, is late to school, which is not his daydreaming's fault, as we find out later. And what else was he bad about? He didn't try out for the swim team. Now, I'm gonna say this. The baseline that this father has established for his kid, it's not hard to reach. You know, like, keep your grade up in a class, turn your homework in, and do an extracurricular activity.
But his mom just died.
We don't know that. We don't know when his mom died. We just know that his mom is dead.
Yeah.
There is one line about his mom that is not related to her name, and it is that she is dead. It is not clear when she died. It is not clear what relationship he had with her, what his dad's relationship was with her. Like, none of that. This movie's an hour and a half, and they do not have time to waste on the familial dynamics of this family. So, they have to cram it into one scene where the dad makes an egg and orange juice smoothie, which is maybe the worst thing I've ever seen on screen in a film ever. And I've seen at least one celebrity's penis.
I was like, and you just watched 50 Shades of Grey,
I've seen so many things on film, and that man cracked an egg, put it in the blender with orange juice, blended it, put it into a glass, and just started drinking it. Like, that's crazy. That is asking for salmonella. Just buck wild. He's just a generic bad dad, kind of like, not like abusive. He doesn't do any, the funny thing to me is, like, it's angled to where he's like, oh, this iron-fisted, unrelenting, uncaring father. But really, all he does is go, can you, like, do your homework and turn it in and be a little bit better at math? You know, that's not the greatest thing to say, but, like, we've seen in the past years in movies and television some really fucked up parents, and this guy doesn't qualify. To me, personally, I don't think he qualifies as a horrible dad. Now, his choices for breakfast, unforgivable. So he's automatically demoted into D tier parent. Now, Bastian has to go to school, in spite of his desires to not do that. And so he's going to school and he gets bullied by 3 kids who are generic 80s kid bullies.
They don't even get names.
They don't get names. They're Kid 1, Kid 2, and Kid 3 in the subtitles. And they call him a loser, a weirdo, and they pick him up and put him in a dumpster. And then he gets out of the dumpster, cleans himself up, gets his bag, wants to go to school, and they tell him, who told you could get out of the dumpster? Which I thought was like, oh man, I guess that would make sense if you run into the same bullies. Why would you go the same direction? Bastion's not a smart kid.
Also, like, do the bullies not go to school? And were they just, like, waiting for him to get out of the dumpster? Like,
it's unclear to me. I don't know, and I don't really care to know because they're not developed characters. So Bastion runs, and he ducks into this side bookshop, in which the bullies sprint past, and the owner, deep from the depths of the bookshop, goes, "Go away, I don't like kids." And Bastion demonstrates his number one character trait, which is being an idiot. And he ignores that.
He's not really great on picking up on cues.
Creeps deeper into the bookstore, where a creepy old man is reading a book and is being antagonistic towards him. And as soon as he shows a modicum of interest in the fact that Bastion reads, he stops being antagonistic and starts being like a little bit of a asshole, but not aggressively. He's like, oh, he's basically just trying to trick him into taking this book. I'd like to know what his angle is. Is he trying to trick Bastion into taking this book?
I don't know.
Also, what's actually written in this book? Because he wasn't done reading it when Bastion took it.
Well, that's the whole idea, is that Bastion is the end of the story, so he doesn't have to finish reading it because he is the end. Spoiler.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Well, but that's because
So what's the bookstore man reading?
He's reading the beginning of the story.
Right, but the beginning of the story is hinging on Bastion reading the book from front end to back.
But you're also forgetting the third layer of meta, that we are looking at Bastion's story. Like, we're experiencing Bastion's story.
God, this movie's so fucking stupid.
It's a story within a story within a story. It's like Inception. There's 3 layers.
Anyways, Bastion steals the book after being basically tricked into it. Leaves a note, tells the bookstore man he'll bring it back later. Fucks off to school. Clearly gets to school late because he couldn't help but be distracted after he got bullied. Not his fault he got bullied. Absolutely his fault that he stayed with the creepy bookstore man.
Would he have made it on time?
If he got... Well, he never would have went into the bookstore. So...
But if he just, like, ran straight to school...
Probably.
Would he have made it on time?
Probably. And the movie would have ended. He would have gotten there, taken his math test, gotten a bad grade, and the movie would be over. Or maybe we'd get to see him go home and we'd get to see his dad beat him or something. I don't know. He's
what
not
the fuck, James?
The dad's not a bad guy, but he's made out to be a bad guy, so there's got to be something going on here. I don't know, dude. None of it makes any fucking sense.
Are you good?
This movie sucks. Now, he gets to school late, sees that they're taking a test in his math class, and goes, ah, dang it. And goes to the school attic.
I mean, I told James, like, same. Like, when you're already that late, you're already gonna get in fucking trouble, and there's a math test, I'm out. I'm done. I wouldn't probably hang in the school still, but back then truancy laws were, like, really in place, and, like, cops, like, looked for kids that were not in school that were supposed to be in school, so...
I wasn't allowed to play in the front yard because my mom was worried about truancy officers parading around.
Yeah, they don't give a fuck anymore.
Did they in the early 2000s?
The early 2000s? No.
Oh.
It really was only prevalent in, like, the 80s and 90s, and then, like, so many school districts have different schedules now that it's, like, unless you're, like, holding up a sheet, like, you have, like, a list in your car of every single one, or someone's specifically been reported as missing, then no.
Alright, well, he goes to the attic. I didn't know schools had attics.
Probably Apparently those old ones did.
And he sits his little ass down and starts to read the book. Now we begin to enter the world of Fantasia, which I honestly believed Disney owned the rights to, and so I was confused as to how it was in this movie.
I bet the book that Neverending Story is based off of came before Fantasia. I bet you.
Maybe, and that just means that Disney can't trademark Fantasia, which is hilarious permanently.
I'm gonna look that up while you rant and rave, because I bet that was the case, because I thought about it during the movie.
And as we venture into this world, it's not unlike The Princess Bride, where we cut back and forth between the real world and the book as a movie, which is not a bad way to do it. I think that's a fine way to do a book as a movie inside of a movie. And we get introduced to a rockbiter, teeny weeny, the night hob, the bat, and the turbo racing snail, as they discuss the fact that the world is coming to an end due to the nothing, which we never see the nothing. We only see clouds representative of the effect of the nothing. So all of this is a really dressed up and horrifying set, bearing in mind this was made in Germany by Germans, and so everything has to be terrifying. They also overdubbed a bunch of lines after production, and you can tell because sometimes you're watching Teeny Weeny talk and he's saying words that his lips are not saying in a different order, and it's not good. It's poor work. Poor work. I mean, I've done ADR for film in college, and it was bad. It was not as bad as this. Now.
Okay. Here's what I found out about Fantasia while James was talking about all of that.
Okay.
The book came after the movie Fantasia.
Uh-huh.
Fantasia was in 1940. The book for Neverending Story came out in 1979.
Okay.
Disney does own a copyright for the film series Fantasia, but I don't think they can copyright the word.
That makes sense.
Because I think the word is a separate...
Just a word.
Yeah, the word is a separate thing, but they do own, like, the series of Fantasia, because there's multiple Fantasia movies. There's like Fantasia 2000 or whatever the fuck. So they can't copy. It's kind of like when React wanted to copyright React, and they were like, you can't do that.
Yep.
So that's what I think is happening, but that's just on a cursory quick Google. So, but there you go.
Well, that's something. Now. We're introduced to all these horrible puppet characters
that literally spend like maybe 10 minutes in the story.
Yeah, they don't do much of anything. And they go off to find the Empress to see what she can do about the nothing. And we follow the night hob and the bat as they get to the ivory tower where the Empress lives. So we get in there. It's like looking at the Star Wars Senate from the 90s movies, where there's just a bunch of fucking creatures and all over the damn place.
The tower also looks like Sauron, just a little bit.
It does kind of look like Sauron, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's got the peaks and the circle.
Yeah, it's weird. At least it's white and not dark and scary.
True.
So there's a guy, quote, spokesman for the Empress, and
consult.
He comes out and he goes, "The Empress is dying. We have a quest, and we have sent for a warrior from the tribes who hunt the purple buffalo." Like they don't have a fucking name.
Also, well, it's the plains people. Also, can we just point out that when we see the Empress later, she seems absolutely fucking fine.
Yeah, she seems normal. Listen, I need you to forgo any concept of, oh, this is a good movie. This is not a good movie. This is a bad movie, actually. And the more I talk about it, the worse the movie gets.
I foresee a fight in a future tier list episode.
Oh, it's straight to D tier. Straight to D tier. They get major league props for their intense set design.
The acting's really good for child actors.
The adults fucking blow. The child actors are phenomenal. And the costuming. Sets, costuming, and the child actors, they're all tremendous.
We also said
the fucking story, the script, and the plot, all dumpster.
We also said the continuity department was excellent.
Oh yeah, they were on their shit. Okay, so we hear that we're gonna get this warrior from this tribe that hunts the purple buffalo.
We know his name.
His name is Atreyu, and he's gonna show up, right? Then this kid walks in wearing like the deepest V-neck. It's not his shirt's not. It's not a shirt. It's like a vest with sleeves. It's a vest with sleeves.
He has little cuffed sleeves. It's like a t-shirt sleeve though. It's not even like long sleeve.
It's like if you had a button-down shirt, but no way to attach the two sides, and you just tucked them in down at your belt, and no collar. And also sometimes it just drifts lazily off to one side of your shoulder. It's like girls wearing sweaters that expose their shoulders and then complaining that they're cold. It's that type of thing, you know? It's like, but why? Anyways, Atreyu rolls up and he goes, I'm Atreyu. And the spokesman guy goes, bullshit. He's a mighty warrior. And Atreyu goes, okay, fuck this. I'll go back to the buffalo. And the spokesman guy goes, wait, no, okay, I believe you. Because he doesn't have an ounce of backbone in him at all.
I just also love the gall of Atreyu to be like, all right, fucking, you called me here, bro. Like, I'm gonna go.
No, I think he's right. I think Atreyu's right here. He's like, you guys called me, and you don't believe I'm me, so I'm gonna fuck off. That's totally valid.
Yeah.
Now, once this spokesman decides, okay, you are the real Atreyu, he gives him the details for the quest. This is where...
Details are very loosely...
Everything unravels. Everything is bad from here on out, okay? We had a great setup. It was looking Princess Bridey, and it became not that. Like so much worse than that.
This movie walked so Princess Bride could run.
When did Princess Bride come out?
After this movie.
I mean, I believe so, but when? I don't know what year.
Hang on.
Okay. So, here are the things that are told to Atreyu. This is a very dangerous quest.
3 years later.
They really did crawl so that Princess Bride could sprint like Usain Bolt. This is a dangerous quest.
Yes.
You have to leave all your weapons behind.
And you have to go alone.
And you're on your own. And if you don't succeed, the Empress will die. And everyone else will die.
And we have no idea what you're looking for.
Also, you have no objectives. Just find a way to cure the princess. Or the Empress. My mistake. And that's his quest. And he goes, when do I start? And they go, right now. And he goes, cool, bye. And he leaves all his shit. For, like, okay. What is the purpose, story-wise, of telling him, leave all your weapons?
He has to rely on his inner self.
His inner self is a goddamn warrior who hunts the bison. Dude is a monster warrior, apparently. He's got prestige. His name circles in places he's never been. He's a famous warrior. He's also 10. What do you mean he can't take his weapons on a quest that they know is dangerous? Are you telling this warrior to handicap himself to find the cure to the Empress's illness, which we will not disclose nor describe?
It's about, like, resiliency and...
Well, a warrior is probably a lot more resilient if you let him use his weapons of choice.
But he didn't need his weapons.
No, because he only got attacked the one time, and he beat the thing with a rock.
See? So he didn't need his weapons.
So why tell him to leave him if he's not gonna need him?
So that he can grow!
Atreyu didn't grow at all. Atreyu's character arc is that he goes from place to place, finding out new information every time he gets there, and then he dies!
It's to teach Bastion a lesson about self-resiliency! And that you can be strong without weapons!
Bastion didn't need weapons before!
He might have if he wanted to fucking fight off those bullies.
Listen, the bookstore owner asked him why he doesn't punch the bullies in the nose, and Bastion went, I don't know.
There's 3 of them and 1 of him.
Yeah, but he didn't say that. He just said, I don't know.
The big thing is teaching Bastion to not be... that he can be strong and stand up for himself and be the hero of his own story.
Well, you'd think they'd have written a plot to, like, do that.
They didn't!
No, they didn't. They wrote a plot, which is truly awful. Front to back bad. So, Atreyu, the hero of the novel, has to then go, all by himself, no provisions, no nothing, on his horse Artax, to find something that he doesn't know what it is, and he doesn't know where it is, and no one has guided him at all. That's really my issue. My hang up on the weapons is kind of irrelevant because the quest is not really that dangerous in that there's not anyone who attacks him at all. There's the elements, and your weapons are useless against the elements, really.
Yeah, because the nothing's kind of just a storm.
The nothing's kind of just like a gravitational wave. So there's no... while it is dumb to look at a warrior and go, I need you to go on a dangerous quest. Now leave all your gear here. I think that's just a dumb thing to do. He didn't ever need anything the whole time. So, on that, the big problem here is that they send him on this quest from the highest authority in Fantasia to go on this quest with no guidance. No one knows where to look. They're like, hey man, you're a competent and capable individual. Maybe you will know where to look. Good luck.
He at least knew people to ask.
That's true. He spent a series of days searching through, what was it? The desert,
the crystals,
the crystal forest, one other place before he got to the swamps. And in the swamps, Artax dies.
Yeah.
His horse. Now, Artax dies
in the swamps of sadness. Isn't it swamps of despair?
The swamps of sadness. And I don't know why.
Because he got sad.
Why?
Because he lost hope.
How?
Because he couldn't get through the mud.
He was doing fine.
And then he got stuck again.
But he kept on doing fine until he decided not to do fine and sink. There is...
He gave up.
Okay, show me.
They did!
No, he just stopped. Like, he made the decision and he was like, I'm done. And then he sank.
Exactly.
That's... No, that's fucking stupid.
It's one of the most depressing scenes in, like, childhood cinema for, like, a whole couple generations of children.
I missed out. So, Artax sinks in the swamp, and it immediately makes Atreyu the saddest living thing in the swamp. And the swamp does not consume Atreyu, which tells me Atreyu is invincible.
He hasn't given up yet. He starts to sink when he gives up, which is after the turtle.
Anyways, he does all this acting, and then he gets to, what is it, Morla?
Mm-hmm.
Morla, the ancient one, climbs the hill. The hill is the shell of Morla, who is a giant turtle, who is apathy incarnate.
And allergic to youth.
And is allergic to youth.
Me as an old woman, probably. Let's be real.
It's gonna be Halloween, and you'll be like, "Fuck them kids."
I keep looking at those filters that like they have on like TikTok that like show you older, and I straight up look like a hag. So eventually, I'm just gonna embrace my inner hag lifestyle and like move to a bog and just like terrify the local residents.
Oh my God, we're gonna move to Louisiana, and I'm gonna have to go around to neighbors' houses and be like, "Don't worry about America. She's just going through her third midlife crisis. She has decided
This is
she
her
looks.
witch face.
She's a witch at the moment. She's decided she's a hag, and she's out here trying to creep everybody out. She's harmless. She doesn't move good, so you don't have to worry about it. She can't catch you. It'll be okay.
I don't need to catch you to curse you.
She doesn't know magic. She won't curse you. She's just out here being creepy. I'm sorry. Would you like an apple pie?" The ancient turtle is fucking insane. Doesn't do anything. I wrote a note and it says, "Impossible quest, arbitrary rules, useless turtle." Also, sidebar, Bastion is bad at obeying rules and doing what he's supposed to do. Like, yeah, he got waylaid by those bullies, and that's, you can't knock him for that. But at the same time, at no point in time does he decide, "I'm going to be an ounce of responsible," after the pep talk from his dad that morning.
Pep talk.
Yeah, it's not a good pep talk.
Is this because the bell goes off and he just straight up chills in the...
Yeah, the bell goes off and he's like, "Fuck it, we stay at school in the attic." And then the storm starts and he's like, "Fuck it, we stay." So then, the Dragon Ex Machina shows up.
Luck Dragon!
Falcor, the Luck Dragon. And Falcor's purpose is to get Atreyu out of jams. And that's it.
He's like the Eagles.
Except for he does his job.
He's probably directly related to the Eagles.
He might be, except for he does his job. He does his job 75% of the time. And so Falcor snatches him out of the bog right as Gamork shows up. Now, Gamork, as you find out later, is this evil dark wolf creature that is a peon for the Nothing. I don't know how that works.
They really don't spend a lot of time or any time at all going into
the lore of the world is just vague enough that they can be like, "It's whatever you want it to be,"
which is the idea of the movie,
which is not great. So Falcor rescues Atreyu a little bit, takes him to a space where Atreyu is cleaned up, patched up, and stays asleep for, what is it, days?
Yeah, it's
He's
several
asleep
days.
for several days, basically in a coma. Bearing in mind, this is like a 10-year-old on a quest whose horse drowned in front of him. And then he got sneezed out of a tree by a turtle 3 times. And then told to fuck off by said turtle. But at least he was given a direction by the turtle.
South.
To go south, 10,000 miles. And then gave up hope, was almost killed by a wolf boy beast. And then a luck dragon appeared out of nowhere for no reason at all. And snatched him from the jaws of defeat and carried him away to be tended to by 2 rock gnomes who hate each other.
Yeah.
Now, you might think to yourself, "Wow, this movie sounds like I should have done a bunch of drugs before I watched it." And I would say that is correct. You should have done a bunch of drugs before you watched it, because then the events that happen might make sense. I said this to America when we were watching the movie. There's a clip that circulated around of a writing workshop that was being taught by Matt and Trey, who write South Park. And the way they write their episodes are as such. An event happens, and you have all these different events that occur in your episode, but the transitions between these events need to be therefore or but. So this thing might happen, therefore this thing would happen. And so on and so forth through your story. That way, it's a cohesive unit. There are a lot, I mean a lot, of big movies, big budget, even in today's Marvel Cinematic Universe, movies where this writing concept is not applied. And you have a bunch of events with no transition between them, and you end up sitting there going, I don't understand what's happening. That is what this movie does for the majority of the runtime. Atreyu has to go to a bunch of places that he does not know beforehand, with no direction, that he susses out on his route blindly, and no event has any context to any of the events that happened prior. Like, it's outrageously confusing the whole time why anything is happening. You cannot. Now, this is a movie for kids, so it's not meant for your fucking Christopher Nolan nerds who are watching these fucking backwards ass movies like he's making now that don't make any goddamn sense. It's not an Inception story, okay?
A little bit.
I mean, this one in particular, a little bit, but it's a movie for kids.
Yes.
The concepts are for kids. It's not dreadfully complicated what they're doing.
No.
However, in terms of narrative, it is completely lacking.
You want to know what else was some of which were made around the same time and were for children and do not fall into this pratfall? Studio Ghibli movies.
Yeah.
Like, they have...
Every single thing that's happened in every Studio Ghibli movie that we've watched is like, this thing happens, therefore the rest of the plot happens.
Even if the plot is
unhinged and crazy,
it
follows reason and logic, and it obeys the rules. Now, Fantasia is a world where you have to accept that there are no rules, and everything is utter chaos all the time, because the nature of Fantasia is that it's the imagination of a person in a movie who is then told that they are a person in a movie.
Yeah, because Bastion's world's the imagination of our world, and Fantasia is the imagination of Bastion's world.
Right. So it's 3 layers deep, and it's only 3. It's not Inception. It's only 3 layers deep, and at the end of the movie, everyone is sort of told, that they are the subject of another creature's whims. Okay? So that gets explained at the end, but the journey to get there is like so empty and confusing and almost meaningless. And the only reason that you build empathy as a viewer is because first they kill Artax, and then the actor who plays Atreyu does a goddamn good job looking fucking miserable the whole time. He is just incessantly suffering through the whole movie, and the only time he really showcases it like deeply is right after Artax dies. Okay? So, now we're on the top of the rock where the rock gnomes live, who are a bad example of an old married couple. They hate each other, and they do 2 different things: witchcraft and science. And the witchcraft makes Atreyu better, and the science doesn't do anything. So then he's got to go.
I mean, the science tells him about the gates and
I'm
the
not
oracle.
gonna lie to you, I paid so little attention when the science gnome was explaining anything to him, because I had already signed off on the idea that literally nothing matters because we're in the imagination. So the rules that they try to set here they're meaningless. And I am proven correct when Atreyu approaches the first gate. So
you're not even going to talk about how quickly Atreyu gets from...
I know, we'll get there. We have to get back to the fact that they watch a knight in armor, approach these sphinxes that make a gate that you could easily walk around. You could literally just like go 15 minutes to the side and then another 15 minutes forward, and you would bypass the gate. It's not like there's this fucking force field stopping you and ensuring that you have to go through the titty sphinx gates. Also, titties. There's just big old fucking naked titties on these sphinxes.
With nipples and
Nips
everything.
out. Big bahonkadonkaroos. Out and about. Okay? So, first question, why do the sphinxes have laser beam eyes? Second question, the ruling on the field is...
Here we go.
When you get to the gate, you have to have unmitigated confidence in yourself.
Yes. And you have to know yourself entirely.
That's okay. That's fantasy, blah, blah. The same thing. You have to answer the questions or they throw you into the gorge, right? Same thing.
Monty Python.
Yeah, I was trying to get there. This knight rolls up. We don't know a thing about him. He rolls up, comes to a halt in front of the sphinxes, and gets laser beam-eyed instantly.
Barbecued.
Fried to death. And the horse scurries off, because we can't kill two horses in one movie.
We already gave enough trauma. We don't need more.
Can you imagine they barbecued a horse? Oh, wild. That'd get it a PG-13 rating.
Is it just PG?
I think it's G.
They're titties. It can't be PG.
I don't know. The ratings board is awash.
Especially in the 80s. It really
Oh my
made no
god, they
sense.
didn't give a fuck about anything in the 80s.
PG.
Okay. So Atreyu sees this guy get fried, and then he goes, the old gnome man explains to him, yeah, you've basically got to know yourself and be confident. And he goes, bet, I'll do it. And he rolls off, and the other gnome's like, no, I haven't told you about the other gate. Which doesn't matter.
And then Atreyu becomes the Flash.
They had to look through a telescope to see this guy get barbecued. And in a matter of moments, Atreyu has scurried down from this rock and made it to the Sphinxes. Like,
without using the luck dragon.
Without using Falkor, who's still just vibing, getting stabbed actually by the witch. For reasons. And so Atreyu gets there, and he walks up to the Sphinxes, and he's just like looking at them, and they're not doing shit. And he's looking at them, and they're not doing shit. And he's looking at them, and they're not doing shit. And then he starts getting sweaty as he's looking at him, and their eyes start to open like they're gonna zap him. And all the time, no one says words. You're just looking at it going like, I thought you had this, man. I thought you had this in the bag. You were self-confident. You know who you are. You're only 10. You can't be that complicated. Like, you don't have deep-seated trauma yet. Your most recent trauma happened yesterday. And you've kind of gotten over it because you got a luck dragon now. So...
Really, though?
Oh, who needs Artax? We've got Falkor. It's fine. Falkor can talk to me. It's great. So, you really, like, traded up in the world, if we're being honest. I know he was your horse and all that, but like he was sad and terrible, and so he drowned. And now you've got Falkor, and he starts to freak out a little bit, and the statues are like, "Well, I guess I'll kill you." And then everyone in the world yells at him to run, including Bastion. Every world except for the one we were sitting in. No one said that. We were just looking at it like.
Well, James was looking at it. That's
true. I was looking at it confused. Because every time they'd flash up to a Sphinx, it's just like, oh my god, tits! Everyone yells at him to run. He can't hear any of them, and he just becomes compelled to sprint at 1,000 miles an hour. The Sphinxes shoot lasers at him. He dives out of the way, lands a few yards past the Sphinxes, and then, like that's just it. They're done. It's like, okay, if you beat it, it's all over. So he gets past the first gate and decides he's going to scurry off to the next one, and that's what we're going to call this episode because we're almost fucking done with the movie. Fucking movie sucks.
Alrighty. If you're joining us right now, yes, it is Neverending Story. It was voted on by our social media audience because it had been so long due to various things that we didn't have a chance to get you guys to vote because we said we weren't going to vote during the past 2 episodes, which was the tier list and 50 Shades of Grey, because they were epic episodes. And then we decided that we were going to do Haunted Mansion, and then James decided that we were going to go have friends. So we didn't get to record Haunted Mansion because that was going to be our October Spooky Fest movie. So instead, what I did was I posted a poll to all of our social media channels for people to vote, and it was a 5-1 vote for Neverending Story. So I think the 2 ones was one person voted for Haunted Mansion, the new one, and one person voted for the new Mary Poppins. Actually, 2 people might have voted for the new Mary Poppins. But yeah, so that was that vote. But today, we're gonna let you, the live audience, vote for realsies like normal, like we've always done, at what our next movie will be. So your options will be, if I could ever type, the new Mary Poppins. Because, god damn it, I'm gonna make James watch this fucking movie.
I don't want to.
That's the idea. Mamma Mia 2. Anastasia. And Flushed Away. Alrighty, there is your poll. We are going to take our normal usual break because I am out of water and I'm really thirsty all of a sudden. And we shall return. Anastasia, huh? I love that movie. Much excitement. James has never seen it.
Nope.
Which I don't understand. That one's like it's none of your normal.
Is there witchcraft in it? Is there magic in it?
No more than like a Disney movie. Like the evil people do magic. Kind of. But like, so does every villain in a Disney movie. Otherwise, it's a somewhat historical thing. Historical.
Dude, that animation is heinous.
It's old. Once upon a December. I should have always used for my audition song, and I haven't. All right, Anastasia, you ready to finish this?
Let me get back to my notes.
And which might be the most record-breaking episode ever.
I mean, it's not a very long movie. Truly, it's not a long movie. There's like 10 minutes of credits, and it's an hour 35 runtime. So it's an hour 20, hour 25. Not that long.
Oh. 3.
Where the fuck were we?
We just got past the first
gate.
3, 2, 1.
Hi, welcome to CityWavesCinema. My name is James. Can I take your order?
You couldn't let me have it, could you?
Have what?
A good solid intro.
I put the ball on a tee for you, and you said, "Hey man, fuck you. Fuck you extra."
I did not yes and you, and I'm
sorry.
sorry.
No, you fucking broke all the rules of improv. Why do you dislike this show so much? We could have had a good thing going, and you were like, "Hey man, fuck you."
I'm sorry.
That's America. She dislikes everything. Except this movie.
I like this movie. I told James, I was like, I feel like I liked it a lot more as a kid, and so now it gets nostalgia points, but as a movie, I gave it a solid 5.
Okay.
This is still Never-Ending Story, in case for some reason, because we've noticed this.
Sometimes people forget.
Or they just tune into the part 2?
Yeah, you do. We do see the metrics from the show, and people will just download and listen to part 2 episodes instead of part 1 episodes. And I wonder if that's because the majority of my ranting and raving happens in the second episodes. But I don't know. I'd have to do a case study on it, and I don't have that kind of time or mental energy.
Or money.
Now,
Hire Matt
Atreyu has gotten past the first Sphinx Titty Gate. And in doing so, we learned that if you can beat the lasers, it doesn't matter if you have confidence or not. You just gotta be fast.
Yeah.
It's like having the quickest draw.
Which Atreyu is canonically the Flash, so...
Something like that.
Unless you can explain another way he got from that mountain all the way to that gate in like 2 minutes.
Magic. Now,
This isn't Harry Potter.
He was in the desert, and then there's a cut, and he's in the tundra. And he's got asbestos flying all over him.
I thought about that, and I was like, nope, this is after Wizard of Oz.
This is after Wizard of Oz. They weren't using asbestos for snow. It's definitely just shredded up paper and maybe some cornflakes and spray paint. It's okay. He probably didn't die from this. It's all fine.
I did have that thought, though, as I saw it, like, getting stuck in his hair. I was like, ugh.
Now, we've been cutting back and forth between Atreyu's Voyage of the Damned and Bastion's reading of the Voyage of the Damned. Just to remind you every once in a while that this is a dream within a dream within a movie within a dream. And Bastion is still sort of the architect without knowing it. So Bastion has been disrespectful to this book a couple of times when he's dropped it or like folded it or flopped it in places.
Or
he did.
it.
He got mad and he threw it, which is why I wrote the note that he was disrespectful to the book because he straight up yeeted that bitch.
It's because Atreyu sees Bastion in the mirror because you're seeing your true self.
The second gate is the one Atreyu goes to next, which shows you your true self. Okay,
you have to face your true self, whatever the fuck.
Now,
that means.
This becomes a very sticky thing that is not easily explained away because Bastion is what Atreyu sees. Atreyu approaches this mirror. He sees Bastion look up at him from the book when what Bastion's looking at is just the attic in the school, and Atreyu is looking at Bastion look at him, but Bastion's not looking at him, but Bastion sees, well, rather, he reads that Atreyu is looking at a boy, presumably matching his own description in an attic reading a book, and it spooks him, of course, and he throws the book. Now, I posit this question to you. It is canonical in the Neverending Story, the book.
The book?
No. The in-movie book.
Okay.
That Bastion is outside of this book.
Yes.
And is not Atreyu, as Atreyu later wonders who the fuck Bastion is and is confused about Bastion's existence later when he's with the Empress and doesn't understand anything about Bastion, whereas the Empress does. So why, when Atreyu looks into the gate, does he see Bastion? Unless they want to make it this thing of like, oh, they both have the same characteristics for this particular reason, which they don't. They don't explain their work.
I have an answer. You're not going to like it, but I have an answer.
Oh, don't say some bullshit.
My answer is Atreyu, and this is where it gets messy because now we're dealing with levels and meta-ness. Atreyu does not exist, which is proven at the end of the movie with the Empress. Atreyu does not exist without Bastion. So isn't Bastion technically all of Fantasia?
In which case I would ask you, then what was the old man in the bookstore reading out of the book? Because he was reading something out of the book. Was it a totally different narrative with different characters? There's no explanation as to the rules of the in-movie book, The Neverending Story. And now this is a cool idea. You can do a lot with this idea. And I'm going to tell you this right now. The German who wrote it didn't do anything with this idea. He had the idea and he was like, that's good enough. Slam dunk.
What if the man in the bookstore...
Okay. What if the man in the bookstore is Bastion, but 50 years in the future?
No.
Oh.
What if his main goal... What if he's not actually reading anything? He's just, I can't think of the word right now, but like, facilitator, that's not the word.
A portent of his imagination?
No, like he's just there to give Bastion the book.
Then the world that Bastion lives in is not the real world, and Bastion doesn't exist.
It's not the real world. Because Bastion, we are creating Bastion. That's the whole...
But we're not creating Bastion. We're watching Bastion exist. We are not... Bastion is creating the movie we watch. We are not creating the movie we watch that Bastion is in.
No, because that's what they said. Bastion's world is the imagination of our world, and Fantasia is the imagination of Bastion's world. That's the whole fucking point.
This movie sucks.
Are we done with the layers conversation? Because I want to say my funny.
Say your funny.
It's a good thing that Atreyu's real self was a little bitch, because Atreyu had no issues getting through the mirror because his real self was a coward and ran away.
God, it just invalidates so much. The movie constantly does this. It constantly does this, where it sets up something and then backs off on it. And it doesn't play by rules. It will not establish rules as well. And Falkor just sort of exists as an all-knowing god figure who understands that there are no rules and nothing is real. But the Empress also exists as an all-knowing god figure who also knows that there are no rules and nothing is real. And therefore, if we don't convince the one creature who is real that we are real, then everything will come undone. It's like the Who's trying to convince Horton that they're real.
I was going to give a better example.
Okay.
Shark Boy and Lava Girl trying to convince Max to keep imagining that Shark Boy and Lava Girl are real so they don't die.
I think Shark Boy and Lava Girl did a better job explaining this situation. Because you know what they do in Shark Boy and Lava Girl? Explain shit. I'm not saying it's a good movie. I'm not saying it's a good movie.
I love that movie.
I think it's a valid opinion to like that movie.
I love that movie more than this movie.
I also like Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
Oh, young Taylor
They
Lautner.
explain this concept better than the writers who invented the concept. And that's shameful. Now, what happens then? Atreyu gets to the Southern Oracle, and the Southern Oracle
is the same sphinxes but without nipples.
No, they have nipples.
They do
They're
not.
just blue.
They don't. I checked. I looked.
I swear they did.
Maybe you just wanted them to, James.
Maybe. Anyways, they explain that this deep into the movie, what?
What if they had nipples because that was your imagination of the movie, and they didn't in mine because that was my imagination of the movie, and the whole concept of we're imagining the movie that Bastion's in while Bastion's imagining the movie that Atreyu's in, and it all makes sense because of that. Yeah.
I'm in hell. I hate this. I'm gonna go find everyone who voted for this, for me to watch this dog shit, and complain to them. And make them explain to me what the movie is.
Well, you can start with our good old dear friend Hannah.
She better fucking explain, because this shit sucks.
Anyways.
But then again, I think a lot of people that we asked for opinions on what movies we should watch specifically pick movies that they know will irk me so that they can listen to me have tirades.
Some of them just pick movies that they genuinely like to see if you're also going to like them, because every once in a while, they get a winner.
There's a blue moon somewhere. Now, we are neck deep in the movie. And the whole quest finally comes to light.
Are we not going to talk any more about the second oracle? Or is that what you're talking about?
That's what I'm talking about, because the second oracle explains the whole quest.
Oh yeah, the second oracle actually does shit.
The second oracle... Now, bear this in mind. From what we know right now, Atreyu gets given a quest with no guidance, no objective, other than find a cure for the Empress who is very ill. No description of symptoms either, by the way.
Deathly ill. It's deathly ill.
Oh.
She's gonna die.
What if the Empress, instead of suffering from symptoms of the nothing existing, just had, like, cancer or something? And he had to go find a cure for cancer.
Maybe this is all a metaphor for cancer.
I quit. I quit the show. I quit the show. I'm done. I'm retiring.
That's why there's no information, because nobody knows how to cure cancer.
Several doctors have figured out how to cure cancer. They've all been assassinated.
Yeah.
So, the answer for this quest, as explained by the only people who know the answer, or who even know what the quest is the Southern Oracle. And the Southern Oracle is, firstly, 10,000 miles south of Morla the Ancient One, who is many days' trip away from the Ivory Tower, where the quest started. So, impossible odds that he ever even fucking makes it to the Southern Oracle to figure out what the fuck he's supposed to do.
Without Falkor.
Without Falkor. But Falkor's a luck dragon. So
lucky.
Falkor also indiscriminately decides who gets luck and who doesn't, and he specifically picks Atreyu, which does imply that in this world, gods pick favorites and play favorites. So, Atreyu is informed by the Southern Oracle, as the Southern Oracle's statue sphinxes fall apart due to the nothing, that the only way to save the Empress is to give her a new name. I will repeat myself deeper into the microphone. The only way to save the Empress is for her to get a new name. What the fuck is that? Who will give one to her?
They answered, they tell him.
What if, well, they don't tell him, the Empress tells him.
No, they say a human child.
Well, yeah, they say a human child.
He's like, how do I find one? They're like, beyond the borders of Fantasia.
Now, the Southern Oracle is technically correct in everything they say.
And that is the best type of correct.
Best type of correct. But also, fuck them for not explaining shit when they clearly know more things than they're saying.
To be fair, Marla knew all this information too, and she pretty much just told Atreyu to fuck off.
Marla did tell Atreyu to fuck off.
She was like, he's like, do you know what to do? And she's like, not that it matters. Yes. And he's like, will you tell me? And she's like,
no.
No.
You can ask the Southern Oracle if you want.
And then she's like, I'm done talking. Goodbye.
She was like, I would rather die than tell you. What a bitch. First of all, fuck you, dude. You condemn the whole world to death because you're tired of existing?
Yeah, she's
fuck off.
She literally is like, not that it matters.
What a monster of a creature. God damn it.
I would like to see more interactions with people asking Morla shit, please.
More that people haven't. They figured out she's such an asshole that she was alone for thousands of years that she created an alternate personality that lives inside her mind, and she refers to herself as we all the time. This movie is like drugs. But not good ones.
Is this what your drug trip felt like, James?
No. My drug trip had a much worse sense of paranoia. In that there was not a source for my paranoia when I did my drug trip. I just had it.
Maybe you were in Fantasia.
My Fantasia feels a lot like hell.
Which again is because Fantasia is your interpretation of Bastion's interpretation of a story.
I hadn't even seen this or read this at the time.
That's what makes it magic!
I'm ending it all. I'm deleting the channel. No more movie reviews. Fuck all of you. I'm done. I'm done. I quit. Goddamn monsters, all of you. Fuck this. So Atreyu finds this out and he's like, okay, we gotta go beyond the borders. And he's like, Falcor! And then Falcor shows up, apparently, at the Southern Oracle. So now, first of all, why didn't Falcor take him straight to the Southern Oracle and he had to deal with the laser gate? That doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Because he needed to get his wounds treated.
Falcor? Falcor didn't have wounds.
No, he took Atreyu to the people at the mountain who would treat his wounds.
Sure, but then he could have taken Atreyu from there to the Southern Oracle.
He might have if Atreyu waited more than half a fucking second before he'd be like, I'm gonna roll up to the fucking gate.
You know what? That's a good point. Atreyu did not take into consideration the fact that he had a flying luck dragon who could have just taken him there.
I mean, we did watch the CinemaSins, and even he was like, made a point of like, so you're just gonna roll up to the gate and not take the fucking luck dragon?
Yeah, really. I mean, Falcor could have made this movie one and done, and instead he just doesn't. But he also chooses when and where he shows up. It's complicated.
He's an eagle.
He's a god.
He's related to the eagles.
So Falcor shows up, picks up our boy Atreyu, and takes him on a green screen journey across many lands that are in Fantasia, and
that the nothing has not touched.
That the nothing has not reached. And Atreyu goes, we have to go beyond the borders of Fantasia. And Falcor goes, yeah, we'll get there. And Atreyu goes, where? And Falcor goes,
And Treyu goes, how?
And Falcor goes, with luck.
And instead they fly into the nothing.
These motherfuckers couldn't screenwrite their way out of a box. They're fucking useless. Their imagination is on drugs. It's not good. So then, Falcor becomes an unluck dragon, in that they happen upon a storm of nothing, and Falcor drops Atreyu.
Who falls many feet.
The last time you see him, before he's on the beach,
you can't see the ground.
You don't see the ground. There's just storm. And then it's a hard cut to him on the beach with no medallion. Not like that shit had any effect.
Because we haven't talked about it.
We didn't even fucking talk about it. He, at the beginning of this quest, got a medallion that's supposed to, like, guide him and protect him. It didn't do shit. It didn't do a goddamn thing the whole time. In fact, it did so little that he lost it on the fall down and still somehow survived. Because let's not forget, nothing is real. Everything is made up, and it's your fault.
Because you're the one
No! We're not doing that no more. Walk off this fucking show. So, Atreyu's just, like, sad now. Almost as sad as when he, lost Artax, his favorite horse. Oh, I didn't say my note. I mentioned the montage of footage, but the montage of footage is just footage from the southern United States. It's literally just, like, prop plane or helicopter footage of various landscapes in the southern United States. It's recognizable terrain that I have seen before in real life in my travels. So Atreyu lives. Also, every once in a while, and this is something that happened in this movie that distracted me from this movie. Every once in a while, there's just a break and 80s disco music starts playing with some orchestral strings. To increase tension, I think. I'm not sure, but it happens like 4 times through the movie where like a scene is happening and they need to dump in more score, and so you get some 80s synths going, and it's like so clearly 80s. Anyways,
I'm sure that happens.
Yeah, you're lost in the layers of imagination.
Maybe because it was your imagination. You heard 80s disco music and I didn't because it was mine. You set me up for that one.
So we made it to the stage of the movie where we've determined that we've lost and we've accepted this. Falcor's just flying around and being a menace, looking for Atreyu. I heard it. And the Atreyu wants to see Falcor. But then we have to have an Iron Giant moment, in which the Rockbiter is like, I had such good hands, I thought they were so good, but then my friends who I met today got, well, I guess he didn't meet them today.
It's been like a week.
An indeterminate amount of time.
It's been at least multiple weeks.
Yeah, he's like, I lost them to the nothing. They got sucked right out of my hands. I'm bad. And then Atreyu goes, oh, okay, and leaves.
Like straight up was like, I don't know what to do about that, my guy.
I don't have an answer. And so he goes to the fucking Rockbiter, and carries on, and just fucking makes his way into the one place that showcases the plot of the everything. All right? And it's confusing and dumb.
There are very loud bangs. We've paused podcast because there is something going on outside our house. So James is running amok. Our neighborhood is not a great place to live.
Why are they shooting fireworks?
Are you serious? It's fireworks?
It's actual fireworks coming from the farms.
At least it's not gunshots this time.
I ran so fast.
You were doing zoomies through the house. Did you see fireworks?
Yeah, if you go look out the back windows right now, they're just shooting fireworks off from the farms.
Oh, it's Veterans Day.
Oh, it's Veterans Day.
Maybe they're veteran.
Probably. Yeah.
We do not live in Central Austin. I'm not going to tell you where we live, but we do not live in
We live way on the outskirts. And yeah, they're shooting off. It's farmers off to the back of the property. They're like a quarter mile away, and pretty frequently we have coyotes as well, and they will just get out probably 22s, maybe some air rifles, and plink away at the coyotes or other varmints or just for fun. So we regularly hear gunshots in the neighborhood.
We were taking our Halloween pictures out in our backyard.
And ricochet went over my house, which scared the fuck out of me. Because I've shot guns, I've heard gunshots, all that sort of thing. I've never heard a zip from a bullet until we were in the backyard taking photos for our Halloween costumes in daylight. And a zip goes over my head, over the house. And I was like, nope, everyone inside. I've read enough war stories to know that's a ricochet. We're going in.
So, yeah, our neighborhood is not a great place to live.
You'd think the property values would go lower so that we could...
They're dropping.
Slowly. All right, I killed the recording so that I could sprint around the house.
It's
the fuck was I talking about?
I don't remember. Hang on, let me see your notes and I'll remember where we are.
Oh, wait down here. Oh, the lost part, and then he walked into the place where the plot of the movie is occurring on the walls.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah. So we're looking at the plot that we have witnessed thus far, and Atreyu is seeing it for the first time, which has got to be spooky for him. What?
Okay, don't get mad.
Oh my god.
But no, but the paintings are Atreyu visualizing the story that Bastion has been visualizing of Atreyu that we've been visualizing as Bastion, so there's 4 levels. Because someone had to paint those on the wall. So someone else had to know the story, so someone had to be in Fantasia who was aware of the story that was happening.
I hate you.
Carry on.
That sucks. Everything you said sucks. Everything you said makes me mad.
Are you gonna look at me and tell me that I'm wrong?
No, maybe, I don't know. I'm confused by what you said, and don't fucking explain it to me. I don't want to hear it.
All right, there's pictures on the walls.
No, yeah, okay. So there's pictures on the walls, and then he sees a picture of Gamork, and it's the one thing that he doesn't recognize from his travels. And he goes, ah, and then Gamork is behind him, and he goes, ah, and there's Gamork, and he explains that he is a servant of the Nothing, and his only purpose is to hunt down and kill the only person who could stop the Nothing. But he lost track of him in the bog.
He also says like a really like prophetic line where it's like people without hope are easier to control,
which is just inherently untrue.
And
people without hope are difficult as hell. Be ungovernable. Be a menace. So then Atreyu challenges him to a fight because the wolf... Okay, now here's where it gets even more complicated. The wolf says he is there to kill the only person who could prevent the Nothing from taking everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that person is Atreyu.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not true.
Well,
because Atreyu, as we find out, couldn't do shit about shit the whole time.
He had to be the inspiration to inspire Bastion.
Right, but Bastion is the only person who could prevent the Nothing from taking everything, because he is feeding the story at that point.
Yes, but without Atreyu, that wouldn't happen, and we can't get back. Like, I guess in my interpretation, the wolf has to kill the only person in Fantasia who could stop the Nothing from happening.
I don't know. They don't explain it. So Atreyu says, "Fuck you, I'm Atreyu," and then Gamork pounces and is killed instantly. And Atreyu gets a little wounded. And actually, I was reading a little of the trivia. The kid who plays Atreyu got hurt like 4 times on this movie.
Oh my god.
He got thrown by the horse, stepped on by the horse. He got hurt by the Gamork animatronic. They only did the shot once because he fell down. He got hurt by the animatronic as it pounced. And so the only shot that they had is the one where he got actually hurt, and it's the one in the movie. Like, dude got wrecked. And I guess they didn't have a stunt double. It also only cost $27 million. And they probably couldn't have even afforded a stunt double if they wanted to.
I also guess this was like when child labor laws were a little bit more lax, because like now,
1984.
Wasn't it an Umbrella Academy? I mean, he's like an adult now, but like wasn't in like the first season of Umbrella Academy where they had to like
5 couldn't be on set.
Yeah, Aidan Gallagher couldn't do most of the shit because of child labor laws. So like they had him.
He looked dope.
They had him for like the voice acting roles or the voice acting lines and like a couple of freeze frames during his fights, but all the action shots were his stunt double.
Yeah, just a dude. Anyways, so then Falkor dives underwater, finds the amulet, gets the amulet with his tongue, and then miraculously finds Atreyu
just in time
as the world is falling apart and being sucked into oblivion. Picks him up, and then Atreyu goes, "Oh, the amulet, let this guide you." And it does its magic thing for the first time.
And guides them to the Ivory Tower.
Which is somehow still standing. They get there.
Oh yeah, because the world's broken apart now.
Yes,
Fantasia does not exist.
Fantasia is just fragments in space. So they get to the Ivory Tower. Atreyu gets off Falkor and goes on into this open tulip room thing.
It's a clamshell.
It's whatever. It's heinous to look at. And he gets in there and is greeted by the Empress, who is also 10. And who looks like a puppet.
She's a real person.
I don't believe it.
But
her face doesn't move right.
It's very Uncanny Valley. She has very Uncanny Valley vibes, where it's like...
I think they just did a really good job on the makeup to like make her look ethereal, because she doesn't look like a real person. She looks almost inhuman.
Yeah.
And it's hats off to the makeup team. That's one thing I was saying after we finished the movie, was the writing is obscene to me. Terrible. But the sets, the literal sets that they were on,
especially some of them which they used for like one scene that was like 2 minutes.
The sound stages that they used that were not green screen were phenomenal. The makeup was excellent, makeup and costume.
The puppets were great.
The puppets were great because Jim Henson. And the child actors in the movie, which is pretty much all just children, they were phenomenal.
And the continuity department is, because like there are certain scenes where like Bastion's crying, and then like they go back to the book, and then they come back a few pages, quote unquote, later, and like there's still like wetness on Bastion's eyes from when he cried, or Atreyu when he comes out of like the snow place, when he approaches the second Oracle Gate, is like wet from snow melting on him, like. Just little things like that where I'm like, holy fuck, continuity department actually paid fucking attention the whole fucking time.
Yeah, there are redeemable parts about the movie, but on the whole, the story and narrative and everything about the plot is just ass. Now,
maybe if you would just believe.
I'm dead inside, I can't. The Empress looks like a puppet. She goes, "I need a new name." And Atreyu goes, "I don't know how to do it." And she was like, "You can't. It's got to be the human child." And he was like, "I couldn't get the human child." And she was like, "You did. You brought him with you." And he was like, I don't know what you're saying. You're saying crazy things.
This is when Atreyu hops on James's
This
boat.
is when Atreyu joins my team and goes, "What the fuck are you on about?" And then she explains to him that they're not real. They're in the imagination of a boy reading a book about them being watched on somehow, because they don't know that TVs exist, being watched by others, in which they are referring to us sitting on our couches watching the movie, or in theaters at the time.
Or the readers of the original book. Because this was a book, so at the time, you were reading a book about a kid reading a book about a story that was happening.
I think that's worse.
You like that it's movies and not a book?
It's easier to tell visual stories like that when you have a visual medium, I think.
Versus just reading about a kid, reading about a book, reading about a story?
Yeah, that would, and maybe it's my monstrous ADHD, but that would piss me off and I would stop reading that book. Dream sequences in books lose me quickly.
I mean, technically it's not a dream sequence, I'm done.
You wouldn't believe how many chapters I had to reread of the Percy Jackson series and the follow-up Percy Jackson series because they do dream sequences pretty frequently. Like, you get to it and you go, and you flip through and then you go, fuck, there was information I needed, and then you have to go back and reread.
The only time I've ever done that I've done that twice. And they're gonna both be egregious for different reasons. I actually did that with some of the 7th Harry Potter book. When I was reading it, I was like, I got to a point, and I love Harry Potter, but I got to a point where I was like, dear God, how long are we going to be in this fucking tent? And so I skipped a few chapters, because it was literally just them in a fucking tent. There was no story, there was no plot, they were just traveling around in a tent. The second one was a New Moon, from the Twilight series, in which Edward disappeared. And in the movie, it's not bad, because we have Taylor Lautner to make Jacob, like, redeemable and shit. But in the books, Jacob is a whiny fucking asshole. And I hate him. And so...
This interlude in the Neverending Story podcast is brought to you by Twilight and Harry Potter. First of all, fuck the authors of both of those series. All the way.
But I literally just, like, was like, I don't want to fucking read about Jacob, so I just skimmed ahead. I was like, Edward has to come back, right? So, like, I skimmed ahead, and I was like, look, Alice! Ka-chunk! And, like, just continued reading from that point, and I did not go back. Like, Alice at one point was like, Jacob's a werewolf, and I was like, oh shit, okay!
You skipped the part where they find that out?
Yeah!
Oh my god. The way you absorb entertainment pains me. It just pains me. How? How'd you do it? I don't want to know. Don't tell me about it. We gotta deal with this bullshit, okay?
Alright, so the dream.
The dream, it's not even a dream.
They're not real.
They're not real, and Atreyu is just confused, as you would be. And then the world breaks apart even more until it truly collapses in on itself.
Atreyu dies.
And Atreyu is killed because Bastian
is having a mental breakdown.
As this poor 10-year-old kid is like, I'm not God! And then he is alluded one time during the movie to his mother before. Twice, actually. At the very beginning, he tells his dad he had a dream about his mom. And in this part of the movie, he talks to the trees
outside the window
of the attic of the school, and he says...
It's right after they tell Atreyu that his mom needs a new name, the Southern Oracle. He's like, I wish they'd ask me.
Yeah, he was like...
Or the
Empress needs a new name, and he was like, I wish they'd ask me about a new name. My mom had a great name. And then he just goes back to reading the book. It's really awkwardly transitioned in that moment, and you feel pulled away from your narrative. It's literally
shoehorned in there so that the rest of the movie makes sense.
Yeah, but the rest of the movie still doesn't make sense, really, so it's shoehorned in for nothing.
It's better than him... Or maybe it's not.
It's a hint towards what they were shooting for, but what they were shooting for is unattainable in real life. So...
It also leaves a lot of questions.
It leaves so many questions. So, now...
The Empress is talking.
The Empress talks directly to Bastion, but in doing so, she's looking at the camera. So she's also talking to you.
And Bastion is also looking at the camera.
And talking to you. Because in the hierarchy of who is watching who, now everyone is watching you, and it's confusing.
You know...
Don't.
No, what? I'm not going to. I'm not. Everyone take a breath. No, you know what would be great, though? Redoing Neverending Story. Same premise, like, you control the Bastion who's controlling the story. You do it, like, in space with Markiplier.
Oh, where you, like, pick your own adventure?
Yeah, almost? Or Bandersnatch. Like, you do something like that where you literally are interpreting the world that Bastion is in, and Bastion is interpreting the world that the story is in.
That'd be kind of cool.
That'd be super dope. All right, guys, we're remaking the Neverending Story.
God, I don't want to.
As a YouTube click series.
I don't want to write that script.
Anyway, sorry,
so
carry on. They're talking to each other.
Bastion kills Atreyu. It took the whole movie, and then Bastion abandons the book on the last few pages, runs to the window, and screeches out into the universe, Moonchild.
Moonchild. I was going to say Moonbeam, but that's not right. Moonchild.
Now, this sparks a wildfire surge of questions. First of all, your mom's name was Moonchild? And she married the government hack that is your dad?
You cannot take my joke that I said before stream, say it on stream, and get credit for it.
Trademark America.
Thank you.
Ugh. Moonchild? You hippy-dippy bullshit. And now that's what you've decided to name the Empress in your imagination. That's grand. Whatever.
That's fine for her. She lives in a fantasy world. She's an Empress.
She's not
Moonchild's
real.
Fine.
She's a fucking figment of your imagination.
I'm more concerned that your mom was named Moonchild.
Your mom was named Moonchild, and we already knew she had been named something ridiculous because your name is Bastion, and that's not real.
She also grew up in the 70s and the 60s. So that kind of like tracks, I guess. Like her parents could have been hippies.
Maybe. I don't know. So now it's taken the whole movie for Bastion to start imagining again after his dad told him very gently at the beginning of the movie that he needs to be a slightly more serious boy.
Grow up and keep your feet on the ground.
The phrase used was, let's try to keep our feet on the ground. Which is not harsh and is, it's buzzkill for sure. But it's not harsh. It's not what I would say is bad parenting.
This is going to probably say a lot about my psyche, but like that sentence is very damaging to me.
Oh, keep your feet on the ground? It is damaging in that he's trying to sculpt the way his kid behaves without letting his kid be his kid.
I don't know if I could ever tell a kid, and again, this is going to say more about my psyche, because anyone here probably can acknowledge, I don't know if the display behind you helps any.
You are a child.
I have Peter Pan syndrome so bad.
You are canonically still a child.
And that's a joke between all my friends, is that I'm like a 5-year-old with a drinking permit. Like I literally I'm a straight up child most of the time. So like the fact that this dad's just like, hey, stop daydreaming. Maybe like just be a human and like don't imagine things and stop like that.
And I sit there and I go, I wouldn't do that as a parent, but I don't feel like it's as soul-rending as some other instances of the same type of dad. Take, for example, the Disney classic Mary Poppins. The dad in Mary Poppins is like the devil to those kids at all times. He's a monster, and he doesn't believe them when they say crazy shit is happening. When crazy shit is in fact happening. This dad looks like a fucking angel in comparison.
Yeah.
Is still incorrect, but he's doing it in a much gentler fashion. So, credit to being a little nicer about it, but you're still being bad.
So your first question is... because your first question was your mom's name was Moonchild. Your second question was what? Because you said it raised many questions.
Well, I mean, it just raises a bunch of questions about the reality of the world.
Okay.
In that, what's written in the physical book, does it change if the book changes hands? Is the book real? Is the bookstore real? Is any of it real? No, it's a movie. Gotcha. Ha!
Part of your imagination. Woo!
So
Bastian starts imagining.
And he gets the dragon, Falcor, or he gets a grain of sand from the Empress, which is the remainder of Fantasia.
That he can use to make as many wishes as he wants.
Right. It's like a never-ending genie. So he takes that, and the first wish that he has is to take Falcor on a real dragon ride in real life to terrorize.
No, he restores Fantasia first, because he flies
Yes, that's right.
Fantasia.
He restores Fantasia, and then Falcor's like, well, what do you want to wish for now? And he whispers to Falcor, and then they just go torment the bullies that bullied him in the beginning of the movie. Because, as we all know, the second or third thing you should wish for when given unlimited wishes is revenge.
It's probably up there on the list for me, I'm not gonna lie.
And that's the end of the movie. I'm going to give...
Well, they say he has many more adventures and many more wishes. So...
Right, and then there's 2 sequels, and both of them are allegedly worse than this movie. So I give this movie a 4 out of 10. All 4 points of credit going directly towards the acting from the kids and
the technical departments of these movies.
They really put their whole fucking back into everything they did, and they did a goddamn good job. The writer's room seems like it was one dude on one monstrous binge of mushrooms. And having read one Deadpool comic. So yeah, I get a 4. What do you give it? 5?
I still give it a 5 because it gets nostalgia points that you don't like.
I don't have access to the nostalgia points,
so I get the nostalgia points of being I remember because we rented it from Blockbuster.
Oh my god, Blockbuster!
I'm gonna date myself heavily. So we rented it from Blockbuster.
Yeah,
and I watched it in my parents' bedroom on a TV, one of those TVs that had, it was still like a box, first of all, so it still had like the back to it, and it had a VCR in the bottom of it. Do you remember these? Yeah. Yep. That's what I watched Neverending Story on the first time, and it was smaller than both of these monitors. So.
Yikes.
5. Alrighty, so live chat voted. We will be watching, our next movie is Anastasia, which James has also not seen. Again,
that'll be fun.
That's a deep one in my childhood. So hopefully he likes that one better than this one.
We shall see.
Until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye. Not bad. Ow.
What did we end at? I didn't see the time.
Like
43.
Yeah, 43 minutes.
So a little short.
A little short, but not too bad.
I mean, you don't have to like roll out right now. You still have to save the episode and wrap up stream, but geez, bye, Green Gorilla.
Listen, we made him mad tonight.
I tortured
your incessant rambling
about
and jokes were so bad. Oh my god.
But they were fun.
I love you, but what the fuck, dude?
It was content. It was a good bit. You can't tell me it wasn't a good bit.
It was not a great bit.
If you heard that on Distractable by the 4th or 5th time, and it was Mark or Wade that was getting tortured by Bob, you would think it's hysterical.
You know what? I would think that was hysterical.
Have you heard about the ship of Theseus?
This podcast is the ship of Theseus.
So see, it was the kind of same thing, where it was like the 4th or 5th time, and Mark's like...
Is this show even the same show?
Alrighty.
Oh, fuck me. Alright.
Anastasia next time. Monday we're going to be back. It might be with Bread and Fred. We'll see. Now that we can save the checkpoints, I don't feel as like...
I'm not as bothered to play it. We can probably get it going.
Or we've been pitching around the idea of starting another World's Worst Assassin. Because it's been a minute.
That would be fun.
And I feel like I owe the world something. So... yeah, we can do World's Worst Assassin or Bread and Fred. It might just kind of depend on where we end up on. Ooh, we might not be here Monday. It might be Tuesday.
Where are we gonna be Monday?
That light thingy that I wanted to
Oh
do
yeah,
with
that's
the
right.
pup.
It might be Tuesday.
It might be Tuesday.
Keep an eye out. If you don't see us Monday, you will Tuesday.
We promise.
Pinky swears.
Bye, everybody.